Hello everyone. For this time's VegTalk, I have two people with me. I got Oda Johanne with me that I've already introduced you to many times. Uh, and I also got Sydney here, which you've probably only seen in the background of my activist videos. Quite a fun thing. So before we go anywhere, so I have to ask Sydney, who are you and why did you go vegan?
Oh, well, I'm a activist, a marine conservationist, a human rights defender, and an animal rights activist as well. And I'm also a vegan, which you you can probably tell um, from my introduction. I went vegan uh, right when I started studying. Like after high school, I went to went to college, and it was uh, like a thing that everyone talked about. Like I always heard about veganism. I had met many vegans, and I never really understood why. And so I decided to just try it out and see if I could survive without eating animals. And it worked out perfectly fine. So I thought, why not? And a couple months later, I started getting into animal rights activism, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So where do you come from?
I'm from Aurskog. It's a small town outside of Oslo,
Okay.
like 4 minutes away.
Yeah, so yeah, we're all Norwegians speaking English for some reason. Yeah. Well, today's topic, it's very difficult to pinpoint like exactly where, but we're somewhere in the lines of um, if something is worse or bad or easier to tackle, being discriminated towards, if it's a choice or if it's the other way around, or if they are a choice at all, basically. So basically, I thought of asking Ola Johanne what is your take, because you told me that you disagree with that vegan teacher. For those who doesn't know, that vegan teacher is a TikTok sort of minor celebrity that basically has some controversial things that she says and such. And yeah, why don't you explain the situation?
Yeah, the one TikTok, I'm not sure if there are more of the same theme, but there was. She said there are more uh, selfish to come out as queer as coming out as a animal activist, and I do disagree with that because coming out as queer is still something that is very risky in some parts of the world. Like, thankfully, we are coming to terms with it in many countries in the Western world. So I see a trend with people younger than me that they don't come out anymore. They just get a boyfriend or girlfriend, like, or something in the middle. But many places in the world, there's still a big risk with coming out of the closet. And someone coming out can help someone else coming out and like be them their true self. And I know with myself that uh, I'm not sure if I would have come out of the closet with friends if not I had a very queer community around me at that time. And although I'm not still not out there being queer, I still it helped me a lot knowing people who was out of the closet, seeing people coming out of the closet, and I think also when celebrities and stuff and other people comes out of as queer, it helps a lot of younger people that still is dealing with their identity. So although coming out uh, of as queer may not animals, it may help a lot of people with finding themselves and being their true self. So I would not use the word selfishness coming out of the closet. Although I, of course, coming out as a animal activist is not at all selfish either.
Okay.
So yeah, I would call neither selfish.
Yeah, so you don't confuse people. Can you just tell them where on the spectrum you are, because people get confused since they know that I'm your boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, I identify as pansexual, so.
Yeah. So that was the good take on there, and the reason why I brought Sydney on is because also I understand you don't believe that any of those are a choice, right?
Right. So I just let me say first that I completely disagree with a lot of what that vegan teacher says on this exact thing. Like if coming out as queer is or any non-typical sexuality is selfish. I don't really have an opinion on that. I mostly got into this when she said that no, when we were discussing this with some others, and someone said that coming out as vegan isn't the same as or it's way easier because it isn't because your sexuality isn't a choice. But then also I didn't feel like I chose to be vegan. I can't just decide to not be vegan tomorrow if I'd like to. Yeah, on this exact thing, I'm kind of learning as I go. When I got into this talk or into the call now at first, I thought like, well, obviously it's more selfish to come out as with your sexuality just because it's partly for yourself. But as an animal rights activist, you don't come out for yourself at all. But I think, as Oda said, obviously there's some elements there, but it's not right to call one selfish and not the other.
Yeah, I think that there is something like I got to get out there to make like this flow easier, and we didn't actually start there when we talked about this for a couple of months back. It's basically that you started saying that being a Christian is not really a choice, and I sort of assume that you have like the general understanding of what a Christian is. Can you explain to me what do you define a Christian to be?
Well, I guess everyone who calls themselves a Christian would be a Christian. It's just like the belief in God as God is defined through the Christian faith.
Yeah.
Is that enough, or?
Yeah, yeah. I'd say that I strongly disagree on that terminology, but most people don't have like the background of like religious study that I have, if I may, because I have a lot on the heart to explain on why I disagree on your definition.
No, go for it, and I'll probably agree with you if you have a better definition.
Okay. So just sit back and calm down because this is going to be a blast. Okay. So first off, I want to talk about that I have had a huge issue with talking to Christians in the past because I'm very well read, and I got into a disagreement with a lady. Her name was Laura Scripper-Pudor. And the disagreement had to do with non-canonical gospels, basically. Because she talked about that she had been studying the Bible her entire life, so she must have been more right about the Bible than I am. And I was like, what I've read all these non-canonical gospels and other non-canonical Christian scriptures and such, and we went like back and forth on this, and that was enough for her to block me. Although in the past I've been helping her finding like the family farm back in Norway and such. So I know that this is something that can be very hard for people to grasp, but anyways, Now I will only use the Bible as the explanation for why I think that definition of Christian is wrong. So let's go to the Gospels. Well, basically the life, death, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus, or Isa or Yeshua, depends on which name you use. From very early on in the canonical Gospels, and it's even more clear if you go to non-canonical. But let's focus on the canonical. You see that Jesus is a very opposed to, let's say, organized religion, has a authority issue, and so on. Even when like the disciples asked, "What should we do when we pray?" and he said, "Go into your own private room, lock your door, and pray in private, and don't go out and pray in public like a complete hypocrite." The only times we really see Jesus talk to people is either if people come to him or when he go to religious leaders in temples. That is basically it. So I know that there are some cinematics on the Bible and such where you see Jesus talking in big crowds. I see no such evidence that Jesus ever, prior to the crucifixion, spoke to huge amounts of people. There were like a maximum amount of people at one time was like 8 or 9 or something like that. So prior to the crucifixion, he didn't go around and talk to big crowds and such. Like if it happened, it is not mentioned in the Bible at least. And during this entire time, the term Christian never came about. But let's go further to Acts, which is short for the Acts of the Apostles. This was years later when the apostles traveled around the world, taught the words of Jesus Christ. They essentially created an organized religion, and Peter became the first pope. And this was the time when the word Christian came about. So I can agree that you might not choose to believe in Jesus, God, or the teaching of Jesus, but I do believe that most of the time, you choose to follow an organized religion, which is basically how I would see a Christian being defined, as the Bible says.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said. And obviously when you talk about Jesus and what he did, that's things I agree with as well. Like not praying in public and stuff like that. Obviously, anyone who really looked into it would have that perception as well. I think there's just a minor disagreement at the end there, and that all Christianity has to be inherently organized. Like obviously there are Christians that do not go to church on a regular basis or on any basis, and are just like Christian for themselves. Do you think they would fall out of that definition?
Yeah, not necessarily, but most of the time, like although they don't go to church, they might be a part of a church. So I'm still in the Norwegian National Church, thus per have the Bible define it, I would be a Christian. But if I left the church and just kept like talking about Jesus and God and such, well, not talking, but like keep like the faith of it. I wouldn't see that person being a Christian necessarily, because it was basically the organized religion that the apostles created that became like the mentioning of Christianity.
Would it be easier?
If they're not Christians, what are they?
I'd say that they're just disciples of Jesus, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it would be easier if we just defined it like instead of saying it's not a choice to be Christian, it would be easier to say that you do not choose your faith or your ideas or your what's like veganism. It's a philosophy, I guess.
So this is why I brought this up, because it can be very elegant if one doesn't know what they're talking about. So sorry. Where I say that you don't that you may choose to be a Christian, but you may not choose to believe in God. Like one can believe totally and fully in Jesus and yet never ever talk to people about it. They might never experience any discrimination for it. However, same thing with a vegan. A vegan who just believes in the ideology and just never tell people that they are vegan, or make sure that they make excuses and such for why they don't consume animal products, or maybe they consume animal products but they still believe in the ideology. They just are too afraid to show it. So in that regard, I'd say that it is a selfish thing to do, to basically come out as somebody who stands for something. But I feel like it's like on the line of like necessary egoism, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean there.
Yeah. So
But
yeah.
difference between difference between veganism and Christianity when it comes to talking about it and stuff is you can always hide that you're Christian in a social setting that has nothing to do with religion or something. But unless you're actually is like fasting or don't eat different things because of your religion. But when it comes to veganism, it's just when something has to do with food. It can be like if someone is just saying, "Hey, do you want a smoothie?" And if there's yogurt or milk in the smoothie, then everyone knows you're a vegan. And you can't just say no. And if you say, there will always be a big thing, no matter what, because they will either think you're lactose intolerant or something else. And even if like just at work, when I have come eating like a salad or something like green vegetables, if just oatmeal, people are always questioning it. Why aren't you eating like a ham or something like that? And then they just figure out themselves that I am vegetarian or vegan or something, like every time. and like I have tried to like hide it and don't talk about it and being like, yeah, it's not the place to talk about this, but people figure it out anyway. There's actually pretty hard to hide it, because if there's no settings where people see it, someone else will tell them.
Yeah. Do you have the same experience, Edney?
Actually, no.
No, not me either. Actually,
I've been in like very specific jobs, and obviously now also working as a full-time activist. I'm always like surrounded by other vegans, or a majority of vegans.
lucky.
So it's not it's not something that people question, like, oh, why aren't you eating meat? Because obviously they don't either. And before that, I used to work with like I used to be a truck driver, and obviously you eat in your car. And before that there was obviously school, but when someone asked like, hey, would you like some of this I don't know, food, and it had, for example, dairy, I would just say like, I don't eat dairy. And if they asked, I'd just go, yeah, I'm vegan.
Yeah.
And sometimes they ask a little more, and I've never really faced any discrimination on that basis.
Yeah. I have experienced a lot of discrimination on that basis, but first of that, I got to say that I have a very different experience with like work and being vegan and such, because I don't really hide being vegan ever, with one exception. I was working as a frame maker. I made picture frames, and different people came in from like different backgrounds, and there was one that was a prior cattle farmer, producer of both meat and dairy, and he talked about that from day one. And as I sat there, ate my own food, didn't say a single word about it. The question never came up while he was there. So, yeah, no, but he, yeah, I'm not going to mention any names, but he was like, yeah, he was very difficult to be around actually. He pissed off somebody else that was working on like the office, on like a different branch of the entire company than the frame making, and he has this huge religious background, and in the agreement for working there, you actually are not allowed to talk about religion. But he went like straight on in the face and like said that oh, religion is like the root to all evil and such, and then a huge disagreement just came about there, and it's like, yep, I'm never going to tell him I'm vegan. Just yeah. So have any of you like experienced any discrimination for being vegan at all? No.
Not that I can remember. No.
Okay.
I think some of it like could be defined as discrimination. Like if you hang out with your family and your brother says something stupid, but it doesn't affect me to the level where I'd call it discrimination.
Yeah, because yeah, sure. Because what is discrimination for one person might not be discrimination for another. It's yeah,
And
definitely.
much into the word institutional discrimination against vegans is more on a personal level.
I'd arrest you on that one. I'm from a family of hunters and farmers. There's definitely some institutional. What?
But how is that institutional? Because it's not like the society is against us. It's people.
The hunting society is definitely against us. If you know how it is to be in a hunter family, it's absolutely religious to them. They have no idea. If you oppose anything that they're doing, it's the one hobby they have. In the beginning of the year, they basically go out into the forest, look at the assigned area that they have. They train shooting, train their dogs, and then the hunting comes. They take free from their jobs, and this is like the most normal thing in the world for them, and it's basically what their life is all about. When you're in a family of this, your family basically distance themselves from you, because it is like this type of what can I say, this type of culture around it. So I guess it's like semi-institutional in these societies, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other comment on that, or?
Yeah, and I think it depends on how you would define institutional. Like, is your family an institution?
I would more say it's a society, like the hunter society.
Maybe systemic is a
It's
better word.
Come again?
Maybe systemic is a...
Yeah, maybe that's a better word. Because there are cultures, and sometimes it's, I don't know. It's weird. However, maybe I can I put on screen share somewhere? Because there's something I really want to go through when it comes to.
Well, I have screen share, so you should be able to find it.
Yeah, but I don't remember where to click on screen share. I knew how to do. Okay, there we go. Let me see. I guess this is it. Okay, can people see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to head. Oh, well, that's Facebook. Yeah, I'm going into Sci-Hub, and this is a very interesting thing to look into, because many people might not know the amount of discrimination that you see from vegans in the Western world. I know that Oda Johanne talked about that discrimination may or may not be around in like a very no. How was it? That it might be worse to be in a different discriminated group in very poor countries or third world countries. This is a study done in Western worlds, in the Western world specifically. It ain't easy it ain't easy eating greens. Evidence of bias towards vegetarians and vegans from both source and target. So I know that many people don't want to believe in this study because for some arbitrary reason they want it to be true that other types of people are being discriminated against more. But however, if we go down to page 6, let me see. Yeah, I guess this was this it or was the okay here. So we got into like results and discussions. So basically, this is the part where they talk about social discrimination. So hypothesis 1: vegetarians and vegans as target of bias. So as let me see. As predicted, attitudes towards vegetarians and vegans were equivalented to or more negative than equations of common prejudice target groups. As displayed in Table 1, both vegetarian and vegans were evaluated equally to immigrants, asexuals, and atheists. So this group is basically what you can consider in the Western world experienced the same amount of discrimination, so to speak, and significantly more negatively than blacks. So this also went on to say that vegetarians even evaluated equally to homosexuals, where vegans were evaluated more negatively than homosexuals. Striking only drug addicts were evaluated more negatively than vegetarians and vegans. Which is a very interesting. So, as I said, many people don't want to believe in this for some very strange, arbitrary reason. I still have screen share on. Wait a minute. There we go. So I know that many people just find themselves to be just arbitrarily disagreeing with this for whatever reason. I don't really know why people would want it, but this is, well, I don't have any anecdotes to look at from like the other branches here, but I know that it is very hard for certain groups because most discrimination that they talk about in the public are usually like towards women, towards blacks, towards homosexuals. But I know that there are other groups that are seeing a lot of discriminations that are being just excluded, being talked about. Like asexuals see more discrimination than homosexuals, for example, and vegans are basically being put in that same category. And this is from like the Western world, and this is all of that I can focus my my wording on because it's science, it's empirical evidence. But sure, in like very poor countries, the demographics might be very different. So then I would want to ask Oda Johanne, so have you experienced more discrimination from orientation than they have from like veganism?
Well, I have the privilege that everyone think I'm straight. So, honestly, no. I think I'm a bad representation of the discrimination of sexuality. Like, yeah, but I have friends that have been discriminated because of their sexuality. But I can answer the thing you don't understand. At least give an answer. Because when it comes to like blacks, women, LGBTQ, like all of these things, it's been a thing over a long period of time. Like, how many 100 years have there been discrimination against blacks or women? So it's been a long-going thing, and that's why people are thinking that's worse than discrimination against vegans. And when it also comes to drug addicts, vegans and all of that, it all comes to the they have a choice. They can just choose to not be drug addicts. They shouldn't start with in the beginning, like with the beginning. You understand?
Yeah.
Like, but you can't choose to be a woman, or at least I guess if the same people that discriminate, I think they would be more angry if someone chose to be a woman instead of just being born as a woman. Like, you see, I think that's why the mentality is set that they focus more on Black people and women, because there's a long history. Veganism has a long history, but not a so strong history in the history books, to say it that way. Like, you have to, like, everybody knows the history of women's rights, Blacks, because there's everywhere all the time. But if you're going to learn about the history of vegans, you have to actually search it up on the internet or something. Like, no one is telling you their the history of the vegan philosophy.
Yeah. Coming to like the thing that you brought up, Sydney, but with none of this being a choice, do you have any input on what Oda Johanne just said?
Not really. I have some general thoughts though.
Sure.
Because obviously, well, I haven't read that study, so it's going to be hard for me to comment on it in that regard. And there's something there I didn't know, that was that drug addicts are discriminated more. Is that right?
Yeah.
Than vegans.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a really interesting thing, because obviously that means that they're more discriminated than the other groups as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously there's huge systemic issues in regards to like drug rehabilitation and stuff as well.
True.
I'd be really interested in reading that study. I've known about it for a while. I just haven't got time to look at it, but I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I think that a huge issue I've had with like this huge movement of like social right activism is that the focus has mostly been on, as like Oda Johanne said, on what you have seen in history. Because a lot of people say that history matters, and yeah, to some degree it does. But I'm not really sure if there are, like, for example, they bring up like slavery, for example. I'm not sure how much that matters to people born today of color. Like, if like I know that there are definitely things that still is prevalent from like the past, but there isn't any like huge slavery issue with like African Americans or something like that. Where was it going? Yeah, but sure. I went totally wrong way. But would anyone comment on that one thing?
Like, people are still like acting on it, if you see what I mean, like on a personal level, like screaming ugly things after Blacks because they think they can and think it's socially accepted. Like, I have most of my dark friends have been called names because people just want to, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the mentality I feel is in many ways still there, just because it's not shown in a practical way. The mentality is still that we can do whatever we will or say whatever we will to these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think discrimination often builds on like the historical element of that discrimination. and obviously that's also would come into play with veganism, because like for many generations people have used animals in various ways, and so when someone goes against that history or that tradition or that part of the culture, it's like, what the hell are you doing? What's wrong with you? And I guess that's also what, to a certain degree, what's like left of slavery, with people still regarding, for example, black people as second degree citizens. It's just because the history kind of led that way, and it's hard to reverse it.
Yeah, I also have another thing to add to this, and it's not like I disagree or anything, but there is one thing I think that is more prevalent than just the discrimination that people of color experience, and that is basically how the attitude of the people affects their way of thinking. Because this is something that I've talked to a lot of people about, um, and more people have talked about this, that people that are blacks themselves has talked to other people that are blacks, so they say, well, I'm going on to like more education, what will you do? And they get the reply that, why do you even bother, like we're black, like we won't succeed anyways. And that might be the main reason why many of people of color actually don't succeed, because they have this mentality that the entire society is against them. uh, any input on that?
Well, it's clearly a result of the institutional discrimination and oppression.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how society and the mind works.
Yeah, I mean, like United States has
It's
already.
easy.
Yeah. Come on.
Well, I completely agree with Oda Johanne on that. Obviously, people aren't just like told that they're black, and suddenly people are like, well, why should I bother doing anything because I'm black? Obviously, there's like some underlying issue there that kind of fuels that idea in people, and that's also why you don't see activists of color last as long as white activists, for example, regardless of their movement.
Yeah. Interesting piece to go over, of course. What was I thinking of? So, do any of you like think that there is a bigger issue surrounding that topic, especially like no, there was something else. Yeah. Would you think that it would be easier if black people could actually choose to become white?
Maybe if it was like from birth.
Yeah.
It's really
Just imagine that
it's
this.
really,
Yeah, just imagine that this one black person, he can at any point go to the doctor and he will give him like a serum that will turn him white and he can move somewhere else. Like, would that make the discrimination towards black people any less bad?
Will it be possible for white people to go black?
Yeah, sure.
Then
this
I
is
think
such a weird
we would be.
hypothetical and comment on it.
It is, but I think we will be more equal if that was an easy opportunity. Because I think, yeah, I think it will be easier
You think it would be easier?
for
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, but do you think that the like if you could choose, go to the doctor and choose to change skin color, that the discrimination towards black people would be any less bad for those people?
Oh, for the now
Yeah, for the
white
people that
people.
are actually being discriminated for being black.
It depends, because we have features. Like, will they have more Western features, or will they keep?
Well, they won't
that?
even tell that the person was black or was white, like if they change.
I think they will experience less discrimination after
For the
turning white.
for the people who actually choose to remain black.
No, what?
Yeah, sure.
I'm so confused.
No. So the thing is, some people bring up that because veganism is a choice, like which Sidney brought up that he disagree with totally. But like for sake of the argument, if like being a vegan is a choice, what if being black was a choice? So that somebody that could choose to remain black or to become white or vice versa. If there are people out there that chooses to remain black when they have the choice not to, would the discrimination towards those black people be any less?
No, I don't think so.
No. I'm not sure
think they
if
would-
Sidney want to answer this, but
Yeah, it's a really weird hypothetical, and obviously I don't think veganism is a choice, so I don't see any value in commenting on it.
no. Okay, I got you. No, it's a very interesting thing, but the thing that I thought of back was because it's back now. You see these other groups of people that has an immense amount of discrimination towards them. You got asexuals, you got physically handicapped people, and what more are there? Atheists. You got different people of different religions that are being discriminated towards, unlike more or less of the other groups of people that you see these social rights activists bring forward. So as Oda Johanne brought forward is that we haven't seen a huge history. So do you think that there should be more focus on like these marginal groups of discriminated people or something like that in those like social rights communities? Yeah.
Well, yeah, anyone who is marginalized in some kind of way should obviously have their voices heard and have their battles fought. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Or at least to me that feels like really obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. So the best example I have is basically asexuals, because sure you can take a box and you can put blacks, you can put homosexuals, you can like pick up women and mentally disabled people and put them into the same box. However, with asexuals, and it's starting to change now, but for very long it was like this box you put the asexuals in, and if you look in that box you will find conspiracy theorists of like UFO science, of like ghosts and such in that, because it has been a thing that people don't believe exists. So for a long time they viewed asexuals as being the invisible orientation, because it was something that people just believed didn't exist.
Yeah, there has also been a similar history with mentally or like mental disorders, I think.
Oh, okay.
But obviously, we discovered that they are a real thing way sooner than we did asexuality.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's like the same thing, and people with mental disorders will often face discrimination on that same ground, where it's like, well, you don't look like you have insert mental disorder, or things like that. So I guess they would be in the same box, but they're on different stages of that same like timeline.
Yeah, gotcha. It's that is like a very interesting point to put forward. Like I didn't think of that line at all. But one thing that I know for sure is that gender dysphoria is something that has actually been proven, and today there are lots of people that don't believe it's a thing, basically. So it all comes down to language. I'm not sure if any of you are language realists.
I have no idea what that.
Okay. So, a language realist is somebody who believes that there is an objective truth to the meaning of words. if you got me.
Well, they're all made up, aren't they?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but I feel
I
like
guess that doesn't make
come again, Sydney.
so I guess that means that I'm not a realist.
Oh yeah. That does. Yeah, it means that you're not a language realist. Yeah, because when I've seen this debate
great.
on, yeah, I've seen the debate on like transgenderism and such, and I see both of the sides just talking in the terms of language realism, where somebody says, "Oh, but a man is somebody who's born with a penis," and another one like, "Oh no, a man is somebody who defines themselves as a man." It's like you're essentially just arguing language here. I think that the conversations could have been done so well, so much better if they didn't focus on words and actually on like what they actually mean when they talk about something. Because I'm sure that one group are talking about gender and the other one is talking about sex, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it becomes like this like type of silent reaction every single time.
Okay, but what is your point beside the difference between sex and genders?
My point about it?
Yeah.
No, it's basically that because one group is focusing so much on like one group of people who have one set of chromosomes, and the other one's like focusing on neurological science, basically. So it is a huge issue because it's dividing people just because of language. Like
Yeah.
the other doesn't know what the other ones are talking about. If
So yeah, you mean we can draw lines to other things as well, kind of?
yeah. Yeah, sure. Cause oh, now I lost track actually.
Welcome in the club.
Yeah.
We've gone very far off. Should we try to like tie it back in?
Okay, so yeah, Sydney, what do you want to talk about further on?
I don't know.
You don't know.
We've I think there are some things we haven't talked about yet. Yeah. I think there's like one discussion that is whether vegans are being discriminated against to a certain degree or not.
Yes.
And then there's if we should express that problem or if we should use our time differently.
Okay.
Because I have some real strong feelings about that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I've seen this argument come about, and there is a lot of feelings coming back and forth that that's for example, I'm trying to push forward and explain that yes, I am actually experiencing discrimination for being vegan, and other people like, well, why don't you focus on the animals? And like, how am I supposed to do that when everybody is against me as a person? Any input?
Well, yeah, you can go first.
No, well, I'm also kind of on the side where, like, let's focus on the animals. Because when it comes to like, because people was so angry after this TikTok again about from that vegan teacher when she's like talking about Black Lives Matter and veganism and all of that stuff, and people are really mad because, you know, again, it's a choice to be vegan and blah blah blah. But if you're going to like find similarities about the Black history with slaves and stuff and veganism, I don't think like vegans are like the slaves. It's more like the animals are the slaves. But again, I know you can't argue with that, because then everyone will come. You like say you
Equating,
call
yeah.
black people animals, and it's like, no, but they are the one that, like, the animals are the one that are being oppressed the most and like discriminated against most, if we are going to use that word. So yeah, I think we should focus more on the animals than like kind of what we experience in
Yeah.
the streets. Yeah.
I think that leads to a chain reaction very often, where vegans just try to make like hypotheticals, only hypotheticals, or just trying to make analogies, not comparisons, but analogies. It's like, okay, so but people use the same type of justification when it comes to X type of discrimination in the past, and then people, oh, but you can't compare humans and animals type of lining, and that
Yeah.
and then just by standing up for the animals, automatically you as a vegan become a target of ridicule. Yeah. So
And
Yeah.
yeah, I I think also a big issue is like how vegans are perceived usually. Uh, I remember like 10 years back, if someone said vegan, it was always uh, like the gluten-free kind of guy, and like you'd wear flannel shirts and you're vegan and you're triggered by everything, um, and I'm all about like obviously people expressing themselves however they feel, but also I don't want like veganism to be perceived in that way. And I think by saying like, oh, we're so marginalized or we're so discriminated, I think we like, obviously I haven't seen the science on this, so it might be like a really big issue, but regardless of if it is like a really big issue or not, I don't think we're winning anything by being like, oh, I'm super discriminated because I'm vegan, because most people don't perceive veganism as a fight for animal justice. They perceive it as a diet or like a personal trait or something like that, and through that lens, it also, I would argue, can harm like the movement to put too much focus on vegans being discriminated against, when we really already struggle with telling people that animals are the ones that are discriminated against.
Yeah,
If
totally.
that made sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and it reminded me of a case happening in Japan actually, where veganism has only in the last few years been something that has gotten into media, for example, and some wrong person came into the media and basically defined a vegan of somebody who were essentially ate plant-based one day of the week or something like that. So it totally like destroyed the entire viewpoint that people have had of vegans. And in that regard, when some things like that happens, I feel it's important that we really put down the foot and like, okay, this is an issue. Let's bring it forward, and maybe like with the vegan society and such, can actually do some background work. However, I don't think that the average activist should focus on this. But I feel like there should be some kind of protection for vegans somewhere, that so that we can just do our activism and then just don't have to spend too much time on like whatever people say or do towards vegans. What is your thought on that? Anyone?
I've I've done a lot of research on activism burnouts as
Yeah.
part of my work, and what they found is that in the racial justice movement, they've been struggling a lot with burnout, which means that after Wait, my sound still working?
Yeah, it's still working, but your image is a little off though.
Yeah. Wait, let me change internets.
Okay. Oh, we might lose them.
No, but yeah, but I agree that we have to put the foot down. I don't know if I have a lot to say about the issue, but yeah, I agree that
Yeah, I also don't think that Sydney's in at the moment.
no, but we can just talk. And
Okay, I'll exclude him.
no, but we can just small talk.
Okay.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah. Is there a way to like invite him back in again?
Yeah, it should
Oh, he's
be.
coming. He's coming. Okay, let me see. Are you there, Sydney? I can't hear a thing. I can't see anything either.
No,
hello?
not there.
Yeah,
Okay, can hear you.
this is good. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
So in the I'll start from the top. In the racial justice movement, they've had a lot of issues with people burning out, which means after a certain amount of years, people will just not be able to do activism anymore, no matter how passionate they are. And a big part of that would be non-male activists or non-white activists would feel discrimination to a degree where it affected their activism and resulted in burnout. This often happens after like 5 to 20 years. People can go for longer if they're really good on this stuff. But most people fall off in like 5 to 10 years. Even if they're really passionate, they just don't have the capacity to keep going because of the burnout.
Yeah.
And so I think if we see in the animal rights movement that people are getting burnt out due to being discriminated against as vegans, I think that's a really big issue, and I think there should be some kind of way to compensate for that with some kind of special like anti-vegan discrimination help center or something. But yeah, I really don't know enough about the discrimination itself to know if that's a big enough issue.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it affects it to that level. There should be.
Yeah. Also, activist vengeance. If any of you are familiar with that type of term, I've experienced something that I'm not 100% sure, but I'm in the 90s somewhere. I've had my bicycle being sabotaged time and time again, and this was after the situation when there was some people basically writing on hay bundles, like hay bundles wrapped in plastic for those who aren't used to that, writing down vegan messages basically, and I got the blame pretty fast, and I said, well, if what you bring up here has to do with animal rights activism, then I'm going to remain silent even if I have something to do with the case or not. Then everybody just assumed I had something to do with it, and after that, they punctured the tires. I think they put like a cigarette on the seat or something, and I just repaired it, said nothing. Then they loosened the tires, and I was like, okay, now I just need this bicycle to have like a full check. Then they figured they'd managed to bend the back frame. When I was walking to the store, I usually walk behind like the middle school, and I saw this teenager. He was maybe like 14 or 15 years old. He was looking at me. I had this wolf hat on, and I was like, okay. I'm also always a little bit careful because I know that it could be some middle-aged people who hate wolves who could be dangerous. I didn't expect a 14-year-old, but he actually tried to punch me, So I just grabbed his wrist and I twisted him around and I laid him down on the floor. And he kept shaking and trying to get loose. And I asked, should I call the police? And then he calmed down. And I asked him, like, what was that all about? Oh, he just found it so frustrating with me walking around with a wolf on my head, and he said something about sheep and such. And okay, is this something you want to talk about? And he said no. Okay, and then I just let him go. But these things actually happens to me from time to time, and other things is also when which is not as serious as this, is basically when people just take their food and just put it in front of my face. I feel like there's so many things that it's an effect of being an activist, but sometimes also just for being vegan. Anyone has any experience with this at all?
Yeah, the food stuff, I have experience with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I come from a rural area. I would guess it's really comparable to wherever you're from, and I think everyone, like at least everyone who knows me or knew me back when I was a kid, know now that I'm vegan, and whenever I visit, it's not really an issue. People are just like, okay, you're vegan. That's kind of weird, but it never like goes beyond I guess the light discrimination, if we're gonna use that term. And people are often curious, and people often think it's pretty weird. But beyond that, I've never experienced something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Because I had this very very huge issue for a long time, and now I talk about this because now I locked the bicycle in. Uh, so obviously I don't have that problem anymore, but I don't know what people will do in the future. Uh, it's just such a huge like uncertainty. But I'm also somebody that everybody around here knows. That might also be like a factor on it. So, yeah, I felt like I've reached the end of the road with that type of explanation.
Yeah.
So, where should we go now? Is there any more things to be put forward? I feel like there's more.
I don't know. I don't have any more right now.
No.
I feel
Yeah,
like you said.
Yeah, Sydney, did you have
yeah, I'm
something?
happy.
You
I'm
happy
happy
with it?
with what's been said, and yeah, I've got to go really soon,
Okay,
in
gotcha.
like 15 minutes.
Yeah. So I just for
So
like
we
an
can
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so for like the like something things up. So there's definitely some terminal differences between what some people might see as a choice or not. But in general, I don't really see that if it wasn't a choice that it would be any different or anything like that. So I'd say that this might be something to look into. Like there's a lot of vegans who experience discrimination. There's a lot of things that could be dealt with easier, but I feel like it shouldn't be on the vegans to do or the activists to do, but it should be somebody that we have in our backs to help us if something comes about. Are we like in an agreement on this point?
Yeah, I
Um,
think I agree.
I agree. Like if it's a big enough issue, as I said, I'm not familiar with the studies or anything like that, but I know that there are uh, like there's data on how discrimination can affect people. So if it's something that would affect our activism and our effectiveness as a movement, I absolutely think there should be something to help it.
Yeah. Okay, so last, yeah, or did you have something more to say?
Yeah, what I got from like your point is kind of just stuff up for each other, and I feel that no matter what the case is. Just stuck up for each other, support each other, help each other. Yeah, all of that stuff.
Yeah, gotcha. So, and then Sydney, do you have any like channel or type of page or something that I should link people to that you got?
I have an Instagram called Sydney the Activist, which hasn't got enough attention because I've been working on my website, which is going to be really cool. So maybe if I'm back in a year, I can pitch my website. But as for now, it's just my Instagram. I plan on coming back to it sometime. But for now, it's really quiet there. But if you're super interested in seeing my journey forward, I guess that will be a good place to find me. And then obviously also other links that could lead you to my work.
Yeah, just send me that and I'll just put it in the description of this video. Okay, now nice talking to all of you. It's been a very interesting discussion nevertheless.
Yeah, thanks.